Hello everyone, Thomas from Medieval Review at Longpoint 2017, and it is my distinct pleasure to be standing behind the Albion booth here with Mike Sigman. We want to talk about all things Albion today. So Mike, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. I know it's one of the many things you have to do today. Thankfully it's the quiet part of Sunday morning, so not too bad there. I think everyone knows Albion as a brand, knows the reputation. We could probably talk all day about the swords themselves. I'd like to actually talk a bit more about the industry, your part in the industry, and the challenges you guys have seen, at least to begin with.
Okay.
And then maybe opine about some other aspects of swords, etc. So really the first question I really like to ask is, or would ask of you is, give us a little bit of background of Albion as a company, how it all kind of started, for those who may know nothing about it.
We were founded in Germantown, Maryland. The owners of the company, Amy and Howie Waddell, was the ones that founded the company. Amy's the one that started it. She was always trying to buy swords and armor for her husband for birthday presents, Christmas presents, and everything that she would buy, Howie would return because it just didn't meet his quality standards. So Amy kind of got tired of it and said, well, let's start a company and try to retail high-end pieces. And they quickly found out that there was individual smiths, but nobody really as a whole in a company. So they started their own manufacturing line in Germantown, Maryland. We moved into New Glarus, Wisconsin in 2001. I was the first paid employee there and been there ever since.
All right. And when did Peter Johnson get involved with the process?
Peter was right around 2001 or 2002, if I remember correctly. It was right in, towards the beginning of the operation.
Okay. Because obviously Peter has built also within himself quite a reputation as being one of those very expert swordsmiths, as well as an incredible researcher. I've had the opportunity to talk to him before. It's always a pleasure to do so. And his designs always bear out. There's something about, I would say there's something about holding an Albion, but I would say it's probably something about a Peter Johnson design that really shows that he actually knows what he's doing. All right, as far as your part of the industry, so obviously this industry has exploded, not only with HEMA, but certainly just in the collector sphere. Even those who do not act as practitioners in HEMA, there are a lot of collectors, and we see a lot of manufacturers out there. The low end, kind of, I'd call it entry-level functional, but really just kind of collector's level with Windlass and Hanway.
Right.
And there's kind of a mid-range, and there's the upper tier. Where do you see Albion in terms of fitting into the industry as maybe it's something of an industry leader, as well as just how you guys try to cope with this ever-expanding industry?
It's grown a lot, and we've seen it. We've seen the quality of even the lower, what we would have classified the lower end people back in the day, has really raised their bar themselves. I feel that we've kind of made people step up a little bit, which is great for the industry as a whole. It means that people that can only afford like a lower end piece is getting a higher quality piece than what they used to have before Albion was around.
Right. And I think that's very true. There's obviously a lot of competition.
There is.
Many of the kind of higher end companies are still actually quite small. I would think of Arms and Armor, Valiant Armory. You've got a lot of new companies coming from well-established makers. Lockwood Swords is one that comes up in my mind, and I think all of you are trying to kind of reach this new bar, and always trying to refine the process. And I think I would agree that you guys have actually helped drive that. I've seen in my time collecting, I've seen it change over just the past decade or so.
Yes.
All right, so there's actually a little bit of controversy that comes around Albion to some extent, and that's in the collector's aspect with I believe it's the museum line and the next generation line specifically.
Right.
There are limited numbers of pieces ranging anywhere usually from 1,000 to 100.
Right.
And I think that's great because it it makes people want it more and value it more as an item, not just as a nice functional piece, but as a collector's piece.
Right.
But then, if you're also a collector like me, you have to miss out sometimes, and there's never really an option. Have you guys gotten feedback on what that looks like, how people feel about that?
It's been both positive and negative, for reasons like you had stated. People do miss out every once in a while, and that is too bad. There's pieces that sell out really quick. There's pieces that have been around a long time. The pieces that have sold out, though, I've seen on the secondary market going for over double the price on what the person had paid for it at the time. So as far as a collector's standpoint, I think it's really a positive thing. And it also lets us do new models that we really want to do that we've already documented. So it helps us kind of discontinue one and reintroduce another.
Cool. Of all of the Albions that have ever been produced, those that have come and gone many years ago, as well as I call it just kind of the Film Swords brand as well, because obviously there's some that are made there that don't get listed under the Albion brand. Which one is your favorite?
I would have to say probably the Valkyra, which went away, and one that was just recently discontinued, the Gallo Glass.
Yeah.
Those are probably a couple of my favorite. Currently in the lineup, I would say probably the Regent has always been up there on my list. Single hand wise, I would probably go with probably the Vigil. The Vigil is really, really nice.
Is there a plan as these items kind of come and go? I'm looking right now at the falchion you have right in front of us. When those run out, when that as a collector's item is done, are there plans to actually put new falchions in the line to kind of take its place, so that there's never call it a vacuum within the Albion lineup for a certain typology or certain type of sword?
Most certainly. The Necht was one. It was our Kriegsmesser that just went out of stock. We have a blade already designed and sitting at the shop right now to take its place.
Okay.
Peter was due over here yesterday, so it's one of the many projects that we have for him while he's over.
Yeah, he actually answered the question that I was really hoping to get to, is when is there going to be a Kriegsmesser going to be available again?
It's coming, it's coming.
Because I was looking down, it's like, it's on my kind of list of things I would like to have, and then it kind of went away. So I'll just wait for the next one.
Right.
All right, in terms of the manufacturing process, there's actually a great video out there. It's hit all over the web. It's the How It's Made series.
Right.
For those who are uninitiated to the idea of sword making, there's this actually great end-to-end process that actually is quite informative, above and beyond what you would really expect to see in a How It's Made type documentary video. How do you feel that your manufacturing process actually differs from what we see out with other companies that are out there?
Well, ours is a little more streamlined, as we are reproducing the same sword over and over and over again. We have to kind of streamline stuff in order to make sure that we're hitting different, bullet points. We rough cut out on a CNC, we hand grind from there on out. It's all free hand grinding, there's no jigs, no rests, no nothing. So the guys really have to have a lot of talent in order to do every single different blade type that we do. The cutlery department that we have is just we have a fantastic team right now. They're all dedicated, hardworking. It's just amazing with the group of people that we have now.
I'm going to pick one of these up just to make a statement here. He's saying that this is free hand ground, which
Yes,
I've tried to do that before, and I don't know how that's possible. One of the things I have many times noted about the quality of the grinds on the blades is that there is no waviness, and a lot of times the waviness can come from other type of manufacturing processes like actual hand forging.
Right.
But grind lines, etc., very easy to see. Unevenness shines when the light shines, right? And I never see that's very even. So that's actually really impressive. It speaks a lot to the talent and skill of everyone end to end that works on making these swords. There's actually quite a large list of people.
We have 15 or 16 full-time employees right now.
That's quite an operation when you think about how much you guys have to produce, and I imagine they're staying busy all the time.
Oh yeah.
So as I think about Albion as a brand, as I think about where this stuff goes, there's kind of certain role that you guys play within the larger sword community, obviously, but in the HEMA community specifically, I think everyone kind of gets really excited when Albion gets talked about, right? I think about award ceremonies at Longpoint, and as soon as someone says, oh, the grand prize is an Albion, everyone's like, oh, we wish we had won that tournament.
Thank you.
And I think that's partially because the HEMA community specifically really, really values the accuracy that you guys provide. And you talk about CNC mill, because it's a very exacting standard, right? You have specifications that Peter Johnson gives, and you're trying to do all that. And there's also some controversy that comes around that. And I don't think it comes from within the HEMA community, but it definitely comes from the sword collector community at large. And maybe some of this is driven from the European market with the individual makers out there. But it's the idea of doing a stock removal method.
Right.
And specifically stock removal with the CNC, which I think is actually kind of unique to you guys, versus hand forged, which could mean any number of things. And I know that historically speaking, moment as a historian, it's a combination of the two that was really actually historically done.
It was.
But obviously you guys are not. You're skipping that step. You're going in there with a steel billet and you're getting it ground out. Has there been feedback or any desire from potential customer base that wants to see that hand forged? Have you guys ever seen that?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I get it at a lot of different conventions and stuff. We run like the gaming conventions and stuff like that. There's a big misconception out there that if it's not hand forged, then it's a piece of junk. Where the integrity of the sword actually comes from the heat treat alone. How you get there, it makes no difference. But it's the heat treat is where you get the strength and durability of your piece.
Okay. I'm an avid collector of Albion brands, obviously of swords just in general. For those who watch my channel know I've got swords from all sorts of different manufacturers, but there's a special place in my heart for Albions, mostly because I'm a huge fan of Peter Johnson as a designer.
Appreciate that.
And certainly because I'm a huge fan of good, solid, rock solid, wonderful swords. One of the things that isn't necessarily always listed on your site is steel type. I think that it's actually changed a couple times.
It has changed a couple times. We were using 5160 for a while. We were using 1075 for a while. We are currently using 6150.
6150, okay. So I know that's changed. I think it actually changed in the course of me having bought a couple of swords, because I think I have one that is 1075. Although it's honestly, as someone who is not nearly as experienced with types of steel, it's kind of hard for me to look at it and tell.
Right.
But it's good to know, because it's one of those kind of pieces of knowledge that some people are just curious about.
Right.
All right, so we talked about manufacturing process. We've talked about kind of your place in the industry. I also want to talk about one of the interesting side corners of the internet that's actually on your website, and that's Howie's Christmas story. It is July right now, and if you've never read the Christmas story, it's perfect for any time of the year. They could go make the Christmas story type story about this, because it feels almost exactly like looking for the Red Ryder BB gun.
Yep.
And obviously you're not Howie, you're Mike, so I'm only going to be able to ask this from your perspective. What do you think of that story, and do you have a story like that of your own?
It's a fantastic story. I do not. That story, and Howie in general, he is just a fantastic writer. He's written screenplays and all kinds of stuff. The experience that man has had is just unbelievable. He's just a great individual all the way around.
Well, moving off Albion to you personally, how did you get into the interest of swords, and then maybe at that point into sword making?
I actually have always liked knives. I've been a knife collector since I was a kid. My dad was a knife collector, so I was a knife collector. Before I came to Albion, I was working for a company doing theatrical lighting. In my territory, I was bidding out, doing quotations. And I was bidding out from Maine all the way down to DC area, Virginia area. So I had the whole East Coast. But I just needed something different. I heard a knife company was coming into New Glarus. So I found out that it was a sword company. I'm like, oh wow, that's kind of cool. So I shot Amy and Howie an email and asked if they were looking for an accountant or for a customer service person. And I guess at that point, Amy was upstairs talking to Howie and said, first person we're going to need to find is a customer service person when we get into town. She went downstairs and turned on the computer, and there was my resume. So it was kind of neat. So I've learned a lot. I didn't have a lot of knowledge of swords when I came into this, but the knowledge base that I have now is just crazy.
I've asked this question of other people who work in the industry, specifically sword manufacturing industry, before, and it's actually kind of a comical answer. It's like, well, how much do you like swords? It's like, when you're around swords all the time, you kind of begin to lose some interest, right? But what has it done for you? How has your interest in swords changed? How has your appreciation of them changed?
It's nuts. I mean, I just love what I do. I love the whole industry, the HEMA community. My knowledge base on swords has just become astronomical. I remember when I first started at Albion, my wife had told me, she goes, now don't think that you're coming home and decorating the whole house full of swords. And the first sword that I got, I came home to show her, and I said, don't worry, babe. I said, it's going back to the office. I said, I just wanted to show you what I got. She, well, we could probably find a spot for that. So now she's become really interested as well. She's able to travel around to the shows and stuff. So the interest in the whole family has grown huge.
That's really cool. Yeah, the whole collecting of swords is really the job of your customers. Let's take care of that. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. And again, I don't think Albion really needs any type of introduction, but this has been Mike from Albion. Much appreciated. This is us from Longpoint 2017. Again, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
And have a wonderful rest of the gathering. It's the last day here. And safe travels, and hope to do more business for you guys in the future.
You bet. Thank you again. Yep. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye-bye.